deeper understanding connecting purpose, prophecy, time, space, and spirit. We also talk about how one might evolve to a higher level of consciousness and spirituality. Now, what would you do if someone told you are a part of prophecy? What if your name is written in the history books? Imagine how that would make you feel. Being part of prophecy. During this presentation, you are going to learn about the vessel of damnation, a powerful, dark, and mysterious lens of incredible consequence and creation. Also, Mr. Moriyama presents a timeline for the next ELE event that is associated with the return of Nemesis, aka Planet X Nibiru, the trinary star of this solar system, and what he feels people can do to prepare spiritually. You are going to learn of a new technology that, as Shinichi says, can literally see marks of Cain, demons, the mark of the liar, the mark of the serpent, and other malicious entities hiding in plain sight, feeding and leeching off your life, source, and soul. Whether you believe what Shinichi breaks down with us here, which, by the way, most of it is highly connected with the Holy Bible and prophecies written within, after listening to this podcast, you will absolutely feel different. As always, the information presented in this presentation is not Leak Project's opinions, as we do our best to keep them to ourselves most of the time, when applicable, nanu. Here's a quick breakdown of the discussion and some of the key points, and not all of this discussion. Planet X, Wormwood, Nemesis, the trinary neutron star of death and destruction. Now, the twin of the sun is behind the sun, aka Nibiru. Our solar system was a trinary star system, and the third sun is within the center of the earth. The vessel of damnation, its dark and prophetic creation, and the way it resides today in effect. How to prevent death from proclaiming your soul. That's a big one. Technology that works with your phone that actually shows you what's attached to you. Where do souls come from, and why are they here currently? Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of MPEGs, JPEGs. The next level of technology literally is out of this world with capabilities and abilities. It's called ICU. This ICU applications help people decipher technology and Christian scripture connected, mapping of future digital technologies from a 286 computer to the handheld world. Landscape engines, software codes, software allows analysis of the individual and landscape change to higher points of visibility. 3 axis points connect. Now, items of detection are broken down as follows: the mark of Cain, the mark of the liar, the mark of the twisted lips, and then on the other side of that, you've got the spirit of truth, and the spirit that resides within you is between your muscles and your bones, and a perfect representation of self. Also, according to Shinichi, there's 3 different species right now on the planet currently fighting for control: human, Neanderthal, and Venisva. All look similar, and there are some subtle differences scientifically verifiable. Many wars today are currently waged via psychological warfare using your mind against you, and we also talk about the Archon interface and how that's connected. These archons you can read all the way back thousands of years. They've been talked about in Gnostic texts, also discussed in the Holy Bible, prophecies, and scriptures. The breakdown of the serpent and Eve. Then wait until you hear about how space is populated with giant creatures far above and beyond what many of our minds comprehend due to the physical restraints and psychological conditioning. These topics are discussed and many more. Enjoy the presentation and make sure to check out Mr. Shinichi Moriyama YouTube channel. Also, our YouTube channels, youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord, and Leak Project's William Wallace channel, and of course, leakproject.com. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Stay safe and be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Talk to you soon. Good afternoon, Mr. Moriyama. How the heck are you?
I'm doing fine. It's wonderful out here in the state of the burning bush, and temperature is now down. It's quite wonderful.
Nice. Yeah, we've had some rain out here lately too in San Antonio, so it's a good break from all the heat.
Well, yeah. I had to leave early this morning to get back into the cooler weather of the high mountain range, and I was quite surprised when I was told that it's much cooler now in the Valley of Death out there.
Yeah, right on. I got to tell you, you are a man of mystery. It's funny because the podcast that we did is done extremely well, and there's always trolls out there. No matter if you're talking, even if you bring up organic apples, you're going to have trolls that are going to come out and say that organic apples are bad for you, and you should eat the ones with pesticides on them. But it's you definitely. I like the way you bring things to the table, but you're so mysterious, man. I mean that from a personal standpoint too. I've had a tough time grasping all this information you've presented with us.
Well, that's why when we had our discussion, I was more than willing to answer any question that you had. But our program is very simple, and the reason why it is because basically people like to have things laid out for them in a very understanding way. That's why we have only 3 lectures, which I produce, and those are provided free. Now, the big problem that hinders people with it is that if they would like to be able to prove to themselves by producing their own evidence, because they lack the vision, my associates are the ones who have the capabilities of writing the program that will allow them to see what I can see. Because you said that I'm mysterious. If you look in the Christian writings of the Bible, the answer is right there in Isaiah 46:10. It's very simple. And like I sent to you last night, is that we're releasing a device which is called a sorcerer's lens. And what it is a prophetic fulfillment. And I myself look at that Christian writing as almost entirely a book of prophecy.
One thing that's interesting is I took a look at that link that you sent me in the email about that specific crystal of damnation or lens of damnation.
It's called the vessel of damnation. You are familiar with a saying says that if your eye offend thee, take it out or pluck it out.
Yeah, I wasn't able to grasp those two connections there.
Well, you are pretty much aware that there seems to be a force or an effort to fulfill prophecy in many different ways in the modern times.
Big time. I brought that up before. Yeah, I think I've also wondered, sorry to interrupt, but I've wondered if Revelation that was written was almost put together as a game plan or strategy almost. Like, let's write a book and get 1 million people to believe it, therefore it's going to happen a lot easier and it's going to come to play most likely because everybody believes it, therefore they're creating it.
It is. You are correct in that assumption, because our dealings with the Roman Church identifies a secondary element behind the throne. Let's call it the throne, and we know who it is, and we understand their purpose and intent, and they are the ones. It's like very difficult to explain to you, but many people are unaware as to how the construction of the writings of the Christian Bible came about and to who was the writers, meaning that they tell you the story in front of you, saying that, well, this is written, the name of this is by this name, and it was attributed to this supposed prophet or individual. But the people who were writing it were called the Sofer. They are scribes of high intelligence, and they're from the ancient times, and they are primarily the children of Judah.
Okay.
So they themselves are the instruments that that this plan of the future has come about. It's just like there. I just gave you a reference there. Isaiah 46:10 explains who I am, why I'm here. Period. And it also, within their writings, it shows too that who we are, and the fact that it says pretty clearly, and this is why our marks of mankind is important. Cain's question is that, if you send me out, some people will see me and kill me. Okay? That means that there are people, which is what we are called. Our children are called the people. And we have a vision that allows us to see these marks. Now, unfortunately, there is a division amongst mankind, and that is our purpose. I believe when I read your response, you want to understand the purpose.
Yes.
I come from a family of antiquity, and we are known as what is called defenders, or people of justice. Now, what we are doing is we are empowering everybody by providing them a weapon that will protect them, because they will be able to see death coming.
Okay.
And because their vision is limited, the only way that we can impart this power to them is through the technology of today. You'd have to really think back here, but we have had to wait 25 years in order for the technology to come up and the distribution of it, the availability to put this out. In other words, we've had to sit and wait patiently. I don't know how you want to call that, patiently, but yes, it's what it was. 25 years is a long time. And we were... Go ahead.
The technology is available now because, is it because the computers are faster, or software development, or?
Well, no, we were part of the beginning, what was called the MPEG group. In other words, Motion Pictures Experts Group.
Okay.
And the first place that the technology was deployed was Germany. And they had their group, and we participated with it. And what we did is we contributed to the mapping of the future of digital technology from a 286 computer to the handheld world. And those steps were called MPEG 1, MPEG 2, and MPEG 3, which never really happened because it just jumped over to MPEG 4. The devices we're talking upon are the results of this. And we participated within the Japan Pictures Experts Group as well, and we were part of the roadmap of the United States. So in other words, we participated within that in order to input our landscape engine software codes. And what that is like, let's say you're playing a game of golf, and you can see down the courseway, but you can't really see the valleys and the little turns and the elevation changes or the degree of change that may occur. The software allows analysis of a picture of an individual, and it maps the landscape change of what the image is, and where the higher points of visibility that it sees, the camera lens, it increases it by interpolating the 3 axis points to make that pixel stand out much higher. So this is part of our landscape engine, and we have wrote the code that will allow it to be used in handheld phones. But remember, there is a bunch of legal jargon that prevents certain things from occurring. Let's say Apple has their own camera software. You have to get permission in order to put your filter on it.
Okay.
So we've had to do almost 3 years of research within all of the different camera functionality that has been offered in all the different phones throughout the world. Now, I'm not just talking about America. I'm talking through the world. And in these 1,600 different types of devices and patents and the holding authorities that have them, we had to make sure that when we wrote this code that it would not infringe upon any point of their software. So what it is that our code is an overlay, and it allows this to take, when you take a photograph, to impose this interpolation of the image to bring these features up. And what it does is it reveals the melanin, the melanin that resides under the skin.
Uh-huh.
And this melanin has different reflectivity characteristics, and it reports back to the camera lens. Now, for many people, this reflectivity of the melanin is almost invisible to their eye, the naked eye. But with the camera, it doesn't blink, and it has the ability to see it. But in order to enhance it to allow the viewer to see it, the software filter has to be applied. And then that way, the aggregation or the point of this melanin that's congregating under the skin becomes illuminated, and you can take our comparison chart that we provide and see what these marks mean, because it states clearly within these 2,000-year-old writings is that people that lie can be revealed because there is a thing called the mark of a liar. The same thing with those who have speak with twisted lips. This same mark also resides on the face. And this division of mankind is being caused by a single group. In other words, what we see now, this conflict that's going on politically and geographically, is being promoted by a single group who call themselves the humans. Now, you've heard this number 11 being used a lot, 11.
Oh, yeah, and I see it all the time, too. It's weird, too. I'll notice oftentimes I'll see the number 11, 511, 711, whatever, when I'm thinking about something in deep thought, or I'll get a phone call from someone in particular. Seems like that number seems to pop around at certain times.
Well, let me reveal to you what it truly means. In the Christian writing, it says that when Adam was formed from the dust of the earth, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, and he called him man, right?
Right. And
so the identification of man is man. Now, where does this human come in? The 8th letter of the alphabet is H, correct?
Yes. Yeah, the Skype gremlins definitely got us there.
Okay. Well, I'm just explaining to you a simple methodology of gematria, and it's hidden in many people's names.
Okay, and we were at the number 8, letter H. Yes,
and then you've got the letter U. Is the let me see here. I'm trying to think of this in English. V W X Y Z. It's the UVW. UVW. U represents the number 3 in gematria. So when you take 8 and 3, and it's because it's an upside-down pyramid. If you take the 2 points of the U and the 1 point that it resides upon, that's a 3. So what that is the number 11, and that's in front of the word man, human. Now, if you heard yesterday's news, they're talking about this Lucy, this ancestral human, where humans emanate from.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I got to throw this out there real quick. I didn't see that yesterday. What I did do yesterday was a podcast, and one of the things that I looked up, a part of this podcast, was Lucy. Not only the movie Lucy that portrays the new transhumanist movement of it's amazing, you'll be a god, but also they take the name Lucy from that 2.8 million year old set of bones, correct?
That's correct. But see, do you understand what the purpose of this is? It's called a red herring, meaning that in order to remove their origin of who they are trying to push it over to something else. Well, we really come from there. We're not the children of Cain. They're trying to create their own origin. So they're trying to walk away from the words of the Christian writings from 2,000 years ago upon who is Cain, who is Adam.
They're essentially from two different bloodlines.
Well, it says clearly who Cain's father is in the Christian writings. It's in 1 John 2:13. It says that Cain is the child of the evil one.
Which scripture is this again? I don't remember that.
Okay. Here, let me. It's in 1 John, and let me see here. If you don't remember that, huh?
Well, I don't, and I know Revelation a lot better than the Old Testament. I have read the Old Testament also. Yet that would be one that would stick with me, I would think. So that's a pretty powerful statement right there.
Well, it says clearly who Cain's father is. It says 1 John 3:12, do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one. And in King James, it says, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one and slew his brother. Now, you don't remember I told you there is a 1,000-word language that existed before all of this confusion.
Yes.
And when it says that Eve was beguiled, meaning that she was when she was in the garden and she saw the apple, and that the serpent beguiled her. Beguile is to penetrate her. In other words, this seed of the serpent penetrated the woman's egg, and thus Cain was born after they were kicked out of the garden. Okay.
Now that makes sense scientifically, and for those out there that say everything in the Bible is just woo-woo or make-believe, when you look at it's all in how you interpret things, I feel, and when you put it together in that aspect, that certainly makes a lot more sense, and I can appreciate that, because that's another thing, too, that I think the serpent oftentimes represents is life. It's the DNA, the dual helix, when you see those two serpents intertwined, like with Baphomet or Thoth or many other ancient occult symbols.
Right, and that was another thing I was wanting to help you with on Baphomet. The term is you do understand that many people of the past, when they looked up to the sky, they claimed the stars as their own. You know, that's my star. And the 5-point star was claimed by the Hebrews. Hebrews are the parents of the children of Israel. All right? Because Abraham was the what's called an eponym. He is the father of the children of Israel, just like my ancestor is the eponym of the world of the Asians. In other words, we have, if you look at the Human Genome Project, our alleles, meaning it requires 128 pairs in order to create a viable human or person or being. In the they gave us his name, and I hate saying it, but Denisova or Denisovan, they have over 328 matching pairs, meaning and compared to the one they call the human, which has 112.
So there's there's a different gene sequence essentially.
No, what it is there is. again, it also comes down into the characteristics of the blood, but it does come down in the sense of, in the world of science, the viable human or life of a being to create a bipedal being. Now, again, I'm using this word being when you should use the term animal, because we are classified as animals.
Okay.
And that animal classification puts us in the realm of mammals. And amongst the genus of species, there are only 3 subsets discovered and identified through the Human Genome Project. And those 3 subspecies are called the human, Neanderthal, which is just basically a name because they found the bones in the Neander Valley, and Denisova, which represents over 2 billion people on the world. And these 128 alleles are required, or haplotypes, are required in order to create a viable being or animal. Its viability is questionable if it has less.
So
these are the basic building blocks.
So humans, Neanderthals, and what was the third one again, please?
Denisova. It's that little chart I gave you that has 3 colors, red, white, and blue, kind of. And you'll see the names there, and it'll show you 112, 200 and something, and then 300 plus.
Thank you. Okay.
That's what the Human Genome Project has identified as mankind. And that's what the purpose of our project is to inform mankind that the division amongst you is being fomented and fostered by the humans because they are at war with you and you don't realize it. And their methodology of war is not what's called frontal confrontation at this point. They are psychological warfare, and they use your own mind against you. They also infest you with songs, dance, just like it says in the Bible. The children of Jericho were up on the mountain, and when they looked down, here were the children of Cain dancing around naked, doing weird acts, and they tempted them to come off the mountain to leave God's, embrace. So This is the group who is doing this, and they are everywhere. They are just like CNN is the Kane News Network. It's not the Clinton News Network. And we can take our software, and every time they have these broadcasters up, you can see this. Now, there is what's called a musculoskeletal differentiation that identifies the cane. The nasal passage in your nose, in your skull, amongst non-canites is like a little pyramid, the opening. And the ones amongst cane is round. And the reason why is because they are from a warm climate. In other words, they can't live up in my region in Siberia because they would be intaking too much cold air. So their nostrils are wide open for the humidity and heat of their region of where they were formed. Whereas ours are just like our eyes. We can see across miles of ice. Whereas in the round eye has a difficulty doing this because it cannot squint like we can. So we can vary our vision and the glare that comes off the ice because of the double eyelid.
Okay.
So these are just strange things that come to pass, but our purpose is to provide a method for individuals to protect themselves by seeing these marks. Now, we also know where this, in the biblical sense, where it says the spirit of truth, that everybody possesses it. This will blow you away where it's at. It's under your chin. It's always looking down.
Adam's apple?
In other words, pardon?
Like your Adam's apple?
What? No. Okay, your Adam's apple is like, I sent you some pictures, and you'll see this strange thing that's on the neck that looks like a demon. And I gave you what's called a 3-panel picture. the original shot of Mr. Sandusky, who was charged and convicted of criminal assault on children. And what we did is we did one filter next to it and then the final one, and you can see on the neck where this face appears, and it's very demonic looking. You have to realize that this essence of the spirit that resides within you is in the shape and form that you possess. In other words, the spirit, your soul, exists between the layer of your muscles and your bones, and it is a perfect representation of you. So when you die, if you are fortunate enough not to have your head ripped off by death, so your body will be searching for its head forever, then you come out in one single form, powerless, unknowing, and incapable of creating movement in the transcending plane that you arrive in. In other words, death is just a doorway into a higher level of existence, which is eternity.
When you said a moment ago,
you had to.
You just said that. So if you get your head cut off, essentially, kind of like in the film The Highlander, when you go to the next level, when you're in that transition stage, you can't.
You will be doomed for eternity. Your body is looking for its head.
There's no way to get around. I mean, you couldn't spiritually fix that or something. I mean.
Hello, are you in the right area here, or am I in the wrong area? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What I asked was,
okay.
What I asked, so like if you get your head cut off, like you hear this saying, off with his head, and you go to the next level there, then you're just stuck in basically purgatory for eternity? I mean, you can't overcome that?
Okay, purgatory is a classification imparted by the church. The writers of the church. What this is purgatory is the transition between heaven and earth. You know, there's a lot of a deep discussion in order to help you understand the plane transition. It's just like people think of space as an endless bound, infinite boundary, filled with sparsely, populated matter. But
right.
In reality, it is another medium. Just like water is a medium, our atmosphere is a medium, the space that is beyond our atmosphere is a medium as well. And it's populated by creatures of incredible size. I mean, if you look in a microscope and you see the bacteria moving around, correct?
Oh yeah.
The same thing exists in space. Now we have what is called, we are in the ideal position, meaning that we have what is called an awareness. We were given the knowledge to become aware, and what we have is the capability to look in the microscope to see down at the smaller levels of existence and look in the telescope to see the larger levels of existence. And we are fortunate because Earth is the speck of dust in the drop of water where all are gathered for this plan. And this plan is to allow everyone to fulfill their purpose. Now, what is this purpose? Think of it this way. When you were born, do you think that all of a sudden, well, here's Mr. and Mrs. Bear, and we've got a new child coming through. Let's order a spirit up from the drive-through, and we'll put it in.
That's not how it works?
This is another main reason, we would like to discuss with you. As you know, the Internet's going to be taken over, correct?
Oh, yeah, I did a show on that just the other day. ICANN has the keys to the kingdom now of all domain names, this private company that gets lobbied via the UN and other institutions. Absolutely.
This is why we've taken this approach of the three-part special edition, because what we're doing is being very cautious, because we do not want anybody that uses our information to turn around and to put themselves in jeopardy, nor do we want them to make claims with it. In other words, claims such as, well, I see Hillary Clinton and I can see what's on her. No, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is to use this tool to ascertain your own condition. And then this way you can turn around and help yourself and help your family. And this way you also keep and prevent yourself from going out and doing like what Alex Jones does. He's out there, he's already asking Hillary, not to kill him, correct?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Alex Jones is a very interesting individual.
There's something very strange about him. Besides, he is a Canaanite, by the way.
Well, and I got to say, I mean, he woke me up to many things back in the day, and I really appreciate some of the exposure that he gave on vaccines and other things. I mean, certainly he's definitely the, how do I put it, the top shelf in regards to certain things, and very intellectual person. I know he knows what's going on. I certainly hope that he can continue, maybe go back to his roots a little bit, but I guess when you get to that level, I mean, I'm not judging him. I think that I appreciated his older work more, some of it, versus now. But even then, I take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that you have to. This is another problem, too, is that many people don't understand is that you can jeopardize your own safety by going off on a limb. And then, constantly trying to, go over your previous, it makes it worse. In other words, you'll have to continually do this. Ours is consistent. We have a special edition that provides a methodology to prove the existence of a hidden realm and the existence of living creatures, and the ability to ascertain who you are and your condition, and a solution that everyone can use. So ours is very simple, what is called non-invasive and a non-offensive piece, and it will always be that way because there is no other way to do this. Everybody needs to understand it's time to prepare because what is going to happen, it's going to increase. Now, the story that the Christians tell you is that you'll hear of earthquakes, fires, and wars in far-off places. Unfortunately, that land that they were talking about, if you take yourself in biblical times, the far-off place is America.
Okay.
And according to the geologists and paleoarchaeologists, too, as well, this land has been impacted many times, and the destruction has occurred here each time the passing of the second sun returns. And unfortunately, we are facing that point in time now. And all we are asking is that people understand that, you can buy all the guns you want, all the food you want to hoard, dig a hole as deep as you want in the ground, but make sure that when the time occurs, it won't be according to your plan, and that your children may be far away from you or your loved ones, and that what your purpose and job to do in life was to help prepare them for any eventuality. And that's how our system works, is that once the person achieves the solution, meaning victory over death, death can't claim your soul. Because according to the Christian writings, it says that heaven and hell will be emptied, and those will be judged. The devil and his cohorts will be thrown in the lake of fire. You did see the pictures that we showed you of the lake of fire, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an existing place, and what we are trying to do is to help people avoid that by removing death's claim on your soul. Now, if the world were to do this, then death would die because it would have no souls to claim. So this is the victory over evil that everybody can exercise that's within their abilities and capabilities by removing death's claim upon their soul. So it is a very good solution that everyone can use. It is a very serious weapon that cannot be defeated. And when people do exercise it, they will see it. In other words, the application, the ICU application, will show them the evidence of their success.
And for our Leak Project audience that has an opportunity to listen to this program, is there a way that they can pick up one of those ICU applications?
Well, see, that's what we're doing now. We're getting prepared. Is we're going to put a crowdfunding platform, and what we're going to do is we're going to open up to a number of participants. We're going to give them what is called a secure web mail. And we're going to give them the application, the 3 videos, plus the videos of the lecture on the wits, the teaching instructions, and they will help finance it. Or, we are going to do this with our own device, which is, as you see, is the vessel of damnation. That we are providing it up there. We're going to take the funds from it, and we will fund it ourselves. So, if that can be done, then just like I desire, I'm committed to a vow of poverty and have been my whole life. And I don't even touch money. You may find that very hard to believe, but I haven't touched money in 20 years because I know what it is and I know what it means and I know what it does, and I keep away from it. I don't like it. And what all we want to do is to be able to fund the operation outside of the campus. That means creating the application, an application server. Now, some of this is beyond my technical skills or abilities or understanding, but this application must be downloadable to either an iOS or an Android platform and installable. And it must be handled through a server, and we do not want iTunes or Android apps to have any control over it. So we have to create the server ourselves, which is an application server, and the front end for the website. So that is funds that we don't have, but I've put this up, and we are going to fund it through there. In other words, they'll be able to, if we're successful in selling this device to the Church of Satan or whoever the end owner ends up being, then we will fund it entirely ourselves. But we will offer the opportunity for the first adopters, the participants, and what we will do is we'll give them a secure mail system so they can communicate with our techs, any problems they have, any questions, or any assistance that doesn't require them to go into an open communication system. And it's completely secure behind a firewall with a complete 24/7 Unix system administrator on duty at all times. And some of the sharpest people that we know who will be handling this mail system. And this mail system will, prevent it from being on their phones, meaning that they can use it on their phone, but it will allow them to communicate with our technical staff and through our own evaluators, and anything else through me. In other words, I will answer as well. I'll participate in it, and we'll be able to assist these participants. These participants, we have 3 stages of it, meaning that we have to build the application server. We already wrote the code for it. We have to purchase the hardware, the bandwidth, that the application server uses, and the security of the site, maintaining it. That's just for the application server. The web server itself will be also simplified and a purchase components of hardware. We have to plan for a lot of people to watch it. So we're looking at very wide bandwidth and high cost. So we've estimated the actual cost on this to be under $50K, and each person can turn around and get it. And one thing about this is that we guarantee results. In other words, this is a program that you will produce the evidence. In other words, we guarantee it, 100%. Now, the only thing that we cannot guarantee is that you will achieve the success of, meaning circumcision of the heart with using the sun's light. That will be based upon your own commitment to what you intend to do. Because remember, there's a story there that says that For those who do not follow his way or his commands, you will be cursed in your house. You will be cursed as you walk out of your house, and you will be cursed upon your return. So what we're doing is we're providing a methodology that they can learn very easily and not take much of their time, and do this daily until they achieve the level of success that they require. And we'll put the crowdfunding site up. It is a nonprofit public charity, meaning that this is it's all allocated. None of the staff receives any income. I don't, that's for sure. And what we do is we apply 100% to it to the benefit of the participants and subscribers.
Well, I certainly can't
My
wait.
part of this,
I was just going to say
my
real
part
quick.
of this in the lecture, I give my lectures free, sir. I expect nothing. I desire nothing. If you try and give me money, I'm going to back away. I can't do it. I can't. I don't even like being in its presence. I know what it is.
It's alchemy at its finest, or worst.
It's in Ezekiel 13:18. Beware of people who give you pieces of paper that will curse you.
Huh.
It's a way. Remember that, like when you touch someone, there's a transference that occurs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Think of it. What is the biggest thing that is transferring around the world 24/7? What is being exchanged?
Well, certainly the monetary system. Money.
That's it. It's the cursed paper of Ezekiel 13:18. It tells you clearly, beware of those who give you cursed papers. So what we're doing here is we're still distancing ourselves from it. Again, like I said, is I give my lectures free. I've been told that, in order to give this ability of sight to everyone else, the application will do it, and it provides it to them. Unfortunately, that thing costs. I have no idea of how to overcome that because I haven't touched money in over a quarter of a century. I don't even know what it looks like anymore. I do know, though, that if you pull the change out of your pocket, you're going to see how close they are to you. And between this time of where they mandated that everybody have a second name, this is where this imposition came down. And many of these people walk around today with these slave names and just don't recognize it or understand it. So rather than trying to help them understand the secret of the numbers or what is hidden in their name, we have to help them understand who they are, and that to be careful or wary of those who could bring harm to them because it's within their nature to do so. If you look at our research and see how did we ascertain the mark of Cain, we as soon as all of the criminal photographs started coming on the internet back in the 80s, we started acquiring them. And what we did is put them in our database. And when we finished the development of our landscape engine, we subjected all of these criminal photographs, and we found a surprising number of those who commit crimes and are arrested and convicted have the mark of Cain on their forehead.
And that mark of Cain on their forehead that's been able to get picked up via this new software, essentially, what does it look like?
I already sent you a document, but I can send it again. But what it is it's like a stamp. It's a darker color, like a little rectangle that goes across the forehead. And if you remember, according to the Bible's writings, Lamech had a son whose countenance was like angels, meaning his appearance, and his eyes, burned like, had the color of the sky. So this is telling you that Cain is black and white, which I told you was the secret of the black and white squares that you see in Masonics. depictions. It represents there are two of them, the black one and the white one. And when you're talking about Freemasons, well, the only one who would use the word Freemason were those who were slaves.
Well, that would make sense when you add the word free to Mason. It's amazing what words can do. They're so powerful, and some of the things you're saying resonate and parallel with Jordan Maxwell. He says he's been researching the underbelly essentially for almost 50 years, and he goes, well, think about it, Rex. Sword, word. Well, what's a word? You add an S before the word, you've got a sword, because a word can be used like a sword. And, the English language, he said, was basically put together a certain way to make us think a certain way. Is that true?
It was devised in the 1420s in what you call the colony of England, and it was amongst the Anglos. And they said that what language do we tell these slaves of ours to speak? So they had a Germanic language and they had a slave language, and that language is called English.
Welcome to America, land of the free.
See, anytime you hear the word free, the first thing you should turn around and step back 2 steps. It's like the native, well, I don't like calling them this, the first peoples of this land. When they say, well, now you're free, it says, I was born free. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
I was never your slave.
Exactly. Operation Freedom. Let's go blow that shit up.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. You have to understand is I've had to talk to over 200 tribes to help them understand their enemy who came to destroy them was not the white folks. It was the children of Cain. And the reason why they wanted this land, so they could rename it American, or Dominican, or Puerto Rican, or Canadian. It makes me laugh sometimes when people say that. They don't really understand what they're saying when they speak it like that, because then they're saying they are a subject of Cain. And right now, when you look at what is going on, and this is one reason why we had to make this, we had to simplify it, because to go into subjects that we investigated was 35 subjects, and the total output of the dissertations are over 250,000 pages. It is not possible for a person to read this except to expend 22 years of their life. This is a classical education in order to relearn the great conversation from history that goes back beyond the times of Ptolemy into the time of Kant and all the modern writers. This way you can pick up the threads of what is there. So our presentation is built upon 3 basic subjects. Number 1, there is a world hiding and surrounding you in plain sight. And if you have the conviction, or you believe that there is a higher power than you, then if you recognize it, you will be able to confirm in your own beliefs and reinforce the beliefs that you may have or the faith that you possess, to confirm that it is truth, that there is an order of beings that are far above you and that are in power, and they never die, and they are powerful, and that this little speck of dust and this drop of water is the place of judgment, and that all of these spirits who rebelled against their Creator, who loved them and made them, is giving them the opportunity in the flesh to make amends, to help others to ascend to a higher plane of consciousness and transcend to a higher life. So that first part there is very important, because people can start taking pictures and say, what the hell is that in the grass? Wait a minute, what's in the damn tree? Wait a minute, what's in the sky? What's in my food? You start realizing that you're surrounded, you're ingesting it, and you have no ability to control or interact with them, and you should not. But their presence and their existence confirms there is a world hiding in plain sight, right in front of you.
Can I jump in real quick?
The second part of it.
Just real quick to add to what you're saying, or not necessarily add to it, but to kind of offer just a question here. I'm sure you've heard of pareidolia, or however you pronounce that. It's a type
pareidolia.
You look at the clouds, you see something. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of chariots right there. That's the fourth watchman or the fourth horseman. We better get prepared for the apocalypse because it's right there in front of us. And I did an interview one time with somebody that literally thinks chemtrails are not for us, but for aliens. So essentially, they can be created in these chemtrails. He's like, look, you see that character there? Do you see that there? Do you see that? And I appreciate his beliefs. Yet when I see that kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a neat looking cloud that looks like something. How do you really decipher the difference? You know what I mean?
Well, the Christian writings gives you a simplified form to understand what is in the atmosphere. Those are called the powers and principalities of the air. And they are large. Like, the word cloud doesn't mean anything. The things that go across our sky are ships, and they are massive lands. They contain waterfalls. They contain mountains. They contain many of the things that we see on the land, but we can't discern them because it's beyond our sight. Beneath them, what is supporting them are huge, let's say, creatures, because that's what they are. Creatures are above are those that are not animals. And pareidolia, yes, is a term used by them to remove our attention from the sky or from anything else, or to make people believe that their imagination is playing upon them. And this is the purpose why we use the ICU application, just like there on the vessel of damnation. We provide pictures that show you this one cloud that we had to travel 25 miles to find its tail, but you can see the front end of it, and it's feeding off the rays of the sun. Its mouth is wide open, and you can see it. So the application is made for that use, because if you allow your mind to make decisions for you, this is another problem that we have confronted with our instruction lessons. We give you what is called education of the wits and how to use them. But the ICU application allows you to see and confirm with something else aside from your eyes and be able to share it. In other words, I photographed this today and I see this here. What do you think? So that way you can get a second opinion. And the more people are shooting this, and with the application, it will allow them to take away the glare and the other frequencies that are polluting their image, and to provide definition. If you see one of our little videos that we have on the YouTube site, we show you one of them moving across a mountaintop with his forehead, with his face coming right out of it, a perfectly formed face. So that application is useful to allow people to confirm what they see and to remove the claim of pareidolia. So you understand what the first part of the lectures are. It's called What is Hiding in Plain Sight.
Okay.
That allows you to confirm that. And this is a 20-minute lecture. You walk outside within 10 minutes. You'll bring back photographs. You can sit down and say, oh, my goodness, what the hell is that? But
right.
We tried to do an encyclopedia, but there are so many of them. In other words, we can only classify based upon the realm they exist in. Either they're stuck on Earth, above the Earth, or in space, or above us, the heavens. So our reference chart is built in that method. So it allows people to say, well, okay, rather than saying that this is a lion, dog, snake, no. We want to make it simple for them to understand these are living creatures. And it says right in the Bible, God let Adam name all the creatures, right?
Right.
Okay. He didn't say the animals. That's another strange thing that we have that our application will do. It'll show you what's on your body, on your shoulders.
That's fascinating. So you can just download this app? Like you can just download it on the...
Well, here is the issue that I wrote in the little thing that I presented to you last night. And we had a little discussion about it before we sent it to you. And we are academics, okay? All of our contributors and our participants currently are all academics, and we're on different campuses or in different locations across the country. And, you know, most of our superintendents and our district chancellors have turned and looked the other way. But we are prohibited from producing anything with the tools on the campus, meaning that we cannot turn around and make the application in the campus and then bring it out. All right, so we have to do this on our own, which is why we have brought forth the vessel of damnation. And the vessel of damnation is priced up there with the estimate that what it will cost us, and it's actually lower because we don't expect to get $66,666.66, but there are 3 stages to it.
Why'd you guys pick that number, by the way? Sorry to interrupt again.
Well, no, that anything of that type of nature. Now, I need to tell you how deadly this thing is. When we had it here around myself, I was ill that whole week. My wife became ill. Many bad things happened. And the reason why is because of how this thing was made. 3 lives were sacrificed to make it. And it includes a virgin child. It includes the tester who originally made it. And the artist who created it from glass. And it has the blood of the child on it. And my whole belief on this piece here, since we've obtained this, and we know its whole history, we know where it was used, who it was used upon, and what its purpose is. I believe myself, I would prefer to bury it in the deepest, darkest volcano in the world, because I do not condone the sacrifice of lives for any reason whatsoever. And because of this, we have this thing in a military ammo case with Bibles around it. Surrounding this thing is wrapped up in a lead blanket, and it's like right now it's 15 miles away from me in the middle of nowhere. And this thing is absolutely dangerous. And when we were taking pictures of it, you can't believe, but things were staring back at us from inside it. Glass is a portal into the world that you do not see. In other words, it is the mirror of their world. It's a gateway. It allows them to see through, too. They're very dangerous, this kind of thing. And how it was used and how it subjected people who, against their better judgment, decided to accept this mark on their eye, it just amazes me. But that was them, whether I can't judge them for that, but it does amaze me that they would accept this mark upon their eye with the full knowledge that the written words of Scripture state clearly that, if you accept this mark or, if it offends you, you're supposed to pluck your eye out. There'd be a whole bunch of, one-eyed people walking in at the time of judgment, correct?
Absolutely. I don't know if I heard you say who the third person actually was that was sacrificed essentially for this piece.
The tester, the one who it was used upon, because they had to understand as to how powerful of a light they would need in order to burn the epidermal layer of the orb of the eye. He died from infection from it.
What was it made for in the
And
first place, though? I mean, why would somebody want to create something like this?
the fulfillment of prophecy. It says in Revelation clearly, if your eye offend you, pluck it out. You can't tattoo the eye. You can't write on it. So how would your eye offend you?
Would some people think of that as maybe they see something that offends them, or there's something that doesn't jive with their religious scriptures, so therefore, in order to make it to heaven, they'd have to pluck their eyeball out so they wouldn't see that, so they'd have a better chance of making it to the other side?
Well, this is another thing that we've told people to help them understand, that there's a saying within this Christian writings that states clearly that you can take the Lord's name in vain, but you do not take God's name. Are you aware of that one?
Yeah, basically, you don't want to damn the Holy Ghost or something along that line. Yes, I know what you're referring to.
Okay, we know how this is imposed upon those who do so. It's written on your bones. In other words, the curses you make against God are written on your bones. When your spirit leaves, and at the time of death, the spirit's ectoplasma is written all over in this strange writing that identifies you to the viewer, who are the ones who are separating the good from the bad.
Okay.
And it shows that you have taken his name in vain. I mean, we did one experiment where it states clearly to help people understand, to show them it. We did it over in the valley in California. And it says that in order for the presence of the Spirit to come amongst you, it requires a group of people, 3 people, to start speaking the word, and that amongst their midst, the Spirit will enter. And we have photographs of this. And what it is that when you start speaking this word, this presence will come. Now, you may call this orbs or whatever else. This is very strange. The orbs that people are talking about are called the cherubim. I know you've heard of that name.
Oh,
correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the smaller orbs you see that are in multiple pictures, okay, these are the bees, like the bees of our world, of our plane of existence. And if you think that just because the sun is out there and there's a little bit of water that your plant is growing, no, it's also being assisted by these bees, these cherubim. We have a research site, which I don't know if we'll have much longer, but what it does is that we've been able to photograph and videotape their presence coming every night, every day, and you'll watch them going from tree to tree, leaf to leaf, all over the place, just like bees. And what they are doing, I can't tell you, but they are present all the time, and we've gone to other sites and locations and recorded the same thing. And they infest the world. In other words, they're all over the place. And they're not just orb is a term used to define a geometric shape. Okay? It has no meaning in the past, whereas the word cherubim does.
Okay.
So in the past, they didn't say, well, see that circle? No, that didn't exist. The word didn't exist. Or that orb, that did not exist. Because remember, the words were the language was much more simpler, and many people did not have the grasp or command of language that supposedly they think they possess now. So our first part is to help people see the hidden world that is hiding in plain sight. And we provide a reference chart and a simple way of identification, but we don't want people to dwell upon it. What we want them to do is to either to confirm or reaffirm their faith and belief. And then they can go to the second part, which is who is mankind. and it allows them to understand who they are and the potential consequences they could face if they have a particular heritage. And it's very simple to do and very understandable as to what it is, because they can repeat it again and again and again, and other people can use the application. In other words, this is reproducible. This is not something that is a one-shot instance. You can reproduce this over and over and over again on many different types of platform phones. So what we have done is we provide the scientific evaluation methodology to allow people to reproduce this evidence for themselves. And this establishment of the marks of mankind to ascertain whether or not you possess the blood or lineage of Cain will help people understand a potential consequence, because in the Bible it says that all the children of Cain are tied by an umbilical cord. And what that means is at the time of the judgment, that they will just wrap all these cords and throw them all into the lake of fire. They're tethered.
Do you believe,
like a tethered ball?
I mean, do you believe in that theory or the possibility of the other side as being like a real establishment? I mean, is it going to be brimstone and mortar and blood and guts and zombies?
No, it is not. It's not like that. What it is that there is what is called the unspeakable things that will be outside of the light. In other words, things of demonic nature or dark ill will cannot enter the light. Do you understand that?
Essentially, if you have bad intentions or things that don't jive with a higher level, then you're just not going to be able to make it to that, essentially, because it's just not possible?
Well, you won't be able to exist in it, because the light is powerful enough to drive you away or to disseminate your matter into another form. That's why our third lecture is built upon a solution.
Okay.
That everyone can use.
Okay, so, and what is that?
What that is that the same thing of it. It says clearly, it says that you must drink the living waters of life, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You must partake in them. So if you think it's a liquid that you drink, it's kind of, but it's not. We had to spend over a year in the Sinai Peninsula in the desert, and when we arrived there, because we were quite incredulous, as to why people would wander in the desert for 40 years. What were they doing? They didn't have any, late night Hulu or no YouTube or that. So what were they doing?
they were painting pictures in the sand.
Well,
sorry,
we went over the ground. No, I understand. We had a lot of comments too, because it's only 11 miles from Dar Galzid to where they exited. 11 miles. And supposedly there was a countering part of the evil Magi and the sorcerers that were following them and doing counter sorcery to counter their actions on the Lower Peninsula. But the prime command is that they could not turn their face away from God. Now, according to the writing of that scripture that we had to follow, and this is what it is that in order to appeal or to corroborate, people's beliefs, we had to pull these what is called very esoteric statements that were made in the writings of Scripture, and then what we did is to ascertain whether they were real or not by using scientific methodology in order to confirm or deny it. So it states that when there was, that there is a complete kingdom of God out there, and there is, and it's he created it, but you can't see it. Or like he's the living God that you can't see, which is true. We understand that. But we had to turn around and to apply all the technology and the disciplines of science in an interdisciplinary method to understand it and to either confirm or deny it. so we could create a lecture from the dissertation with a methodology that would include a reproducible experiment that everybody could use, simply. So we had to take the word and statements from the writings of Scripture in order to do that. So like when it states clearly that, that Cain says, if you send me out, some people will see me and kill me. When I told him, I said, I can see who all of you are because my vision is not impaired. I still retain the same genes as my ancestor because I am a direct descendant, meaning that at no time did my family ever cross the line and get into the mass multitude or the mixed multitude. The only one that had done so was my father, even though the one that he had married was of royalty herself, and she was a Neanderthal, which is required. Because it says clearly in that Genesis is that the sons of God came down upon the earth and mated with women, and from them came the mighty men. If you notice in the saying there, it doesn't say woman. Woman, M-A-N?
Right.
It says woman. Okay. And even my grandfather, he had to order his bride from the old country. He could not choose from any around here. So he had to order a bride.
Well, let me jump in.
My father and
if I can jump in real quick on that, because in two questions here. Where from, if I can ask, what part of the world? And then the next thing I'm going to bring up is Neanderthal. Is that the AKA Rh negative bloodline factor?
Yes, many of the original bloodline. In fact, all of my friends, we all laugh at this every time when it says that Neanderthals are extinct, because I can show you all my friends. They're all huge. They wear a size 6 triple E wide shoe, and they're like 250 pounds at 5'9", 5'10". And huge. And they're gentle people. They're very patient, understanding, and very meticulous, meaning that, they don't do things in rapid jump around movements. And
right.
We have women, one of our good friends is a woman, and when you see her, you see, oh my goodness, you don't look like other women. But this is common. This is not something that is hidden, but we know why, and we understand it. Our big problem with it is that, because they find these bones in a certain location in a valley in Germany, they apply this name and term to identify ancient peoples.
And another thing that I've heard also, and I think we touched on this one time before, is that many of the aristocratic bloodlines, they stick within, there's that 6 degrees of separation, I know, but it seems like they often marry from other families that are closely related almost, not necessarily like first cousins. I'm sure that happens too, but I think you know where I'm going with this. And also the Rh negative factor there, if you have, if you're a woman and you have children, they have specific shots that you have to take, or that I've heard you have to take, in order to protect the baby, because your body will fight it if it doesn't have the same blood type. Is that correct?
Yes, I've had that problem where where the child that I helped form was killed because the body of that woman recognized it as a foreign entity and attacked it with white blood cells.
Yeah,
I have to mate with somebody who has the same Rh factor that I do.
And do you have pretty good psychic abilities? When I say just sixth sense type, intuition, stuff like that?
Well, ours are a little bit different because it's like a warrior clan, and we're weapons trained in in kind of an art of what is called a sense of awareness, or a heightened sense of awareness, so that we can feel the presence of things, or that, we're able to use our mind. Now, that's another thing that we don't want to provide in our lectures, because people don't understand what the mind really is. They have this belief that the mind is, well, make up your mind. What does that mean? Do I make up my brain? No, your brain is, just think of it as a computer. Your brain is a hard drive, right?
Yeah, it's like a biological hard drive.
Right, okay. And your mind is a CPU processor, capable of doing millions and billions of things a second, right?
Absolutely.
Whether they be right or wrong, it's capable of doing it, but it's not part of the brain. And when you're walking down the street, have you ever turned around thinking that you felt the presence?
What? Could you repeat that, please?
When you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you feel this feeling that overcomes you, and you feel this presence, and you turn around to look, that's your mind working. Now, your mind exists on the periphery of your body, meaning that its presence extends to the exterior portions of your body. It's like the sensors of your brain. Now, unfortunately, many people abuse these sensors, and they allow the mind to control their will and their own decision making. This is why we give the lecture of what is called How to Use the Wits and What You Do with Them, because it's something that's been missing in teaching all along.
Yeah. I would.
You understand what I just?
Yeah, absolutely.
The wits are the interface between your mind and your brain, in order to make sure that you control the waywardness or the rambunctiousness of your mind, because it will try and do things that you may or should not do. So the wits is the control. It's called the seat of judgment, and people call it common sense. And it's very simple to use. You do it if it's right, and you don't do it if it's wrong. That's the seat of judgment. And the wits are part of that. And that's what helps you tame your mind, because your mind will take off. It will go everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why it is important that children especially understand the limitations that they may have or possess, and that the wits allows them to use common sense and good judgment to make sure that their life follows the course that a good person would follow. If everybody used their wits and used common sense and good judgment, there would be very little crime in the world. And this is what it was like in the time before. In the time of my ancestors, it was a utopia, meaning that people used common sense. They understand the wits. They understand what good judgment was about and how to use it. Nowadays, there is no. Good judgment's gone out the window. It's well, let's go attack them. They've got oil.
Well, everything nowadays is just, it seems as if it's feeding this system of dark ecstasy, empires of dirt, fracking the planet, etc. Not, let's come up with a new renaissance and reward those that are helping others in the planet, etc. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot of things that we have an opportunity to do, yet you kind of make it sad for some of us to think about when you're like, well, here's all these things we can do, yet the world's probably going to end anyway because of this trinary star or return of Planet X and because of prophecy. I don't know, man. It's kind of like, what do we do? Is there any way to stop that, or is it kind of like already written, so therefore it's already going to happen?
Well, see, this is why we help people with this understanding. And the first thing that we tell people is that you only control the 5 feet that surround you. Accept that. You cannot affect things 5,000 miles away. And you should be concerned with that which is within your sphere of influence and control. And that it is important that you make sure that what is within your influence and control is good and proper and right and just. And because if you may be concerned about things that are outside the sphere of influence, is that you have no effect on it. And you must learn to accept that. The only way you can be prepared is to be ready, and those that you care for are also in the same condition as you are, which is why our third presentation, the solution, provides that information. As I was saying before, these Hebrews, or the children of the Hebrew, led by the prince of a Hebrew, were in the desert, and that they were required to never turn their back on God. So, according to this writing in the scripture, that God's throne is above the earth, correct?
Yes.
Okay, when we took that interpolation from the written word of scripture, and when we pointed it, we started seeing the night stars, and we knew what he was doing. He was giving a lesson using the backdrop of the stars and their position, and he was communicating it to his closest, meaning his brother Aaron, and he was telling them secrets. And then the Aaronites were instructed to tell the Kohanites, who were the ones who spoke to the tribes of Israel, because just think about it this way. We did the same experiment. We did standing in single position and going 1,000 meters and talking in a normal voice. Could you hear? No. And screaming at 1,000 meters. Yeah, I could hear it, but it didn't have the same meaning as if I was standing next to you. So this line of communication was transmitted by this methodology in order to communicate the words that he was teaching them. He spent 40 years supposedly doing this, and he had to do it and tell them that they could not turn their back on God. So their march was controlled. So it meant that they couldn't go from left to right, correct?
Right.
Because they would have their shoulders facing. So what we found out that the marching pattern they used was the figure 8. So in the morning they would start facing God going to the north, and they would take a few degrees and they would make that figure 8 crescent, and when in the evening they would turn around and march to the south, so they would be prepared to go to the next figure 8. So they did a whole succession of figure 8, just like the way the sun traverses across, the same way. It creates a figure 8 in the sky. You know that?
No, I had never heard that before. That's pretty cool.
It's called the analema. So if you were to sit down like we did, we had cameras and positions in 3 cities across the world. And what we did is we took a picture every morning at the same time in different time zones. And what we did is when we assembled them, we found the figure 8 in the sky. And that is called the analema.
I think of the infinity symbol.
Correct.
Wow.
But nevertheless, this is how they traversed across this desert. And the method of teaching that Moses gave them as being the learned one, he revealed, when these things would occur to the Aaronites who held this secret knowledge of what he had been told by God. Now, the solution that we have that is there that we learn from them is that there is a transmittance of energy that courses through the world from east to west. This is the sun, correct? And there is a correct angle that occurs at a certain time of the day that if you were to pick your right hand up, you know where the most photo sensors are in your body, where they're present at?
Your heart?
Optical sensors? No, not in your eye. In the palm of your hand.
Huh, okay.
Now, the You may have seen this picture where you see the one finger pointing up. You know, they are always doing this with the thumb. It looks like a U.
Mm-hmm.
The painting of Da Vinci. On the third and fourth finger, there is an artery there called the brachialis, which goes directly to the heart. All of these arteries and veins that are within your body are congregate in your exterior portions, such as your hands. And when you pick it up to the sky, what you are doing is that you are infusing your body with light. And according to the story, darkness will run away from light, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the speed of light, we found, and we show it on our solution there, you know, in the sample that we show. When we shot a beam of light, a single beam through a Coke bottle full of water, we were able to slow it down to 600 frames a second and to show exactly what happened. Since we're composed of majority of water, liquid, what the same occurrence happens. In other words, you fill your body with light. And the story is that you must drink the living waters of life.
Okay.
So what it does is it fills your body and also illuminates the darkest spot on earth, which is your pituitary gland, which is encased in the darkness of your skull. And what it will do is it will start increasing things. In other words, you will find a healthier way. You will also find that you will start hearing things. You will see better. You will benefit from this. Now, the real benefit is revealed in 1 Corinthians 15:51. It says, "Let me tell you a secret. We will not all die." That's what's there. It states clearly. It's the only place in the Bible where the mystery and secret is revealed, which is where the root of our research project name comes from, the mysteries and secrets. And what it does is that if you follow the instruction that's there, it states that you must take off the perishable and put on the imperishable. And what this is that you must fill your body with light, remove all the darkness that infests it, illuminate your heart, hopefully circumcise it, because only light can circumcise the interior of the heart. And when the light hits your heart, when it's transmitting from the palm of your hand, it's moving at 123,000 miles a second. And you do know that within the heart there are crystals there that are created from the blood, you know, the salts in the blood.
Okay.
So what happens is just like a jar of marbles. When you put a flashlight on it, it just scatters it and explodes the light. The same occurrence will occur in your heart. Now there is from the transmission, you must have a way for it to exit, and that's what we explain in the solution of that, how this is done. And if you look at the grounds of where this journey of the children of Israel occurred, and especially when you hear about
you just bring so much to the table. You really make me think a lot, and it takes a lot to get me to really go into this depth or this level of thought process, and I appreciate that. This is like mind food.
Well, I appreciate it too, and I was just again, we want to extend this, because we believe that you have your heart and your intentions are in the right place, and we did notice that you were looking to go remote on some of your broadcasts. So we would like to be able to assist you in that, and we can incorporate that within our crowdfunding, because we're also going to incorporate the studio, which is a public community system in a town in the Central Valley that is run by an ex-congressman.
Oh, very cool.
He provides services to the community. Now, our student interns who work in our research facility, even though that's questionable how long that one will still go, but they are almost all physically challenged students. And the reason why we have accepted them into this project is because many of them have spent years at the community college level. I taught some of them 3 times over, and they can't progress beyond it. And we have produced different projects that have allowed them to continue to work and to contribute to their own lives and feel some self-worth from it. So the same thing goes, and our intentions are there as well, as that, we do see your intentions are in the right place, and we would like to help you do this further as well. I mean, to further, your desire of the remotes. And again, we have in our possession, we have a remote broadcasting system, which is a remote, what's called a recording system. And it uses a digital camera. We have lighting, portable lighting and whatnot. Some of the scrims need to be renewed, but nevertheless, they're all functional. We also have a camera tracking system that rolls along a rail with a full rig. High-end microphones. I mean, it's pretty intense, and we would like to find out a way that we could participate with the Leak project and announce this project. So, because I know there must have been a lot of people who wanted to know more, and like you said, of course there were some pundits on there that have their own ideas, but you're right. You're never going to appeal to everybody all at the same time, correct?
Absolutely. And even if you did, then it gets to the point where, wait a second, if everybody agreed on everything all the time, it'd be like the Borg anyway. It's good to have disagreements as long as you have positive criticism. If you have constructive things to bring to the table, then somebody might go, oh yeah, I'm going to add that to this, and there we get that. So absolutely.
Well, see, that's why ours are very consistent. This is a 30-year project, and the production of this to present to the public is a 3-piece unit. And it's going to stay that same way. And the reason why is because there is nothing to add or take away. It is what people individually derive from it and contribute to it with others. Remember, the story is you cannot save yourself. You can only save someone else, correct?
I haven't heard that before, but okay. That makes, if you look at it as
the Christian world states you can't save yourself.
That's what I was going to say. Right. If you look at it as a Christian standpoint, you can't save yourself. You have to go to Christ.
Yeah. Well, that's the vehicle. Now, unfortunately, we can also tell you a lot of the research in there who Christ is or which one they're talking about, because there is more than one. There is a Jesus Christ, a Christos. It's endless.
Right, and isn't Christos like a sex god essentially? And they talk about anointed. That's the sperm, and from what I've heard, that's a real sexually enhanced.
Yes, it is, and it's practiced by some of the churches. It's just like people aren't aware, but there are 3 Catholic churches. You know that?
I think you brought that to the table last time, absolutely, and most people aren't aware of that.
Well, see, the thing of it is that we want people to maintain their faith or their beliefs, but what we'd like them to do is to look at this. We guarantee it. You can turn around and take 1 hour of time, take the application, and prove these things to yourself. We're not here to tell you truth. Everybody has their own form of truth. And then this way they acquire that from their own personal knowledge and experience. So what we're providing is the tool that will either reinforce or confirm what they believe or know. So that's what we're trying to provide. We're not trying to provide something that, you take this and you'll be wonderful forever. No. What we're doing is we're giving you the tool to battle evil, to prevent them from taking your soul. You do not understand, but the prime purpose of these pillars all over the place, you're close to one too, the cenotaph. You know what the cenotaph is?
No, what is it?
The Alamo monument. The big spire that goes up, that's called a cenotaph. These are fires, and they're arranged. If you look where they are in the United States, you're going to see a pattern on the ground. You know how witches and sorcerers make these pentagrams and things that are on the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, look at the United States. There's a huge one.
Oh, sure. And
Starts from the Washington Monument, bounces down to the Cenotaph, goes to the Transamerica Tower in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then even if you look at the monument in D.C., I mean, that's representation of a giant penis.
Oh, it always is. That's their phallic.
Yep.
In fact, many of them are worshiping their father, whether they know it or not, because many of the people who claim their heritage, again, like we tell you, there was 10,000 people in the beginning. All of these people today are the descendants, and they don't know who their father is.
So it's like Enki or Enlil, essentially. If you were to go way back to the representation of the Anunnaki, essentially, is that where you would start, or does it go even before that?
Well, we went down there, and we spent a year there, and we crossed from where this land of Nod would have been. And we found the calendar of Adam. It's built in stone. And when you go east from there, you end up in a kingdom that was known in the past as the kingdom of King Nud, who was the brother of Enki, or the land of Nod.
It's fascinating.
Well, it's part of it, again. But see, remember what we told you is that our subjects were very in-depth, extensive, and required us to multiply the disciplines in engineering that was required. And we've had some of our people are very famous, and they're hiding behind us because we have to. We don't want anything to happen to them. And they're NASA engineers. They participated in many of the different things of the stealth bomber. They're very intelligent people. And their participation was predicated that we protect them. So that's why we use the Walled Research Project. Besides being interdisciplinary, the regular scientific world doesn't like that. They don't want mixing of the disciplines with the humanities. So that was one of the main reasons. But we were able to ascertain many of these different things that took us in different directions. But in the end, we find that the most usable thing by the general population in the world at large is the three lectures of the special edition using the same application to achieve a goal that they would not do or attain unless they understood exactly what the world they are living in and what is coming and what we must expect, because we're looking at a level of extinction that many people don't understand. In other words, when we get the first bombardment from the story in Revelation that will rain stones of fire, it's going to be very bad. That's why we took the research point to where the location is behind the strongest fortress on Earth, which is the Sierra Nevadas. And this rain of stones will come from the north.
Okay.
So we had to make sure the point of temporary survival is accessible, and the water, because it's going to be pretty bad. It will increase and get worse, as you'll see these storms that hit over this coming week. The atmosphere has been heating up. The ocean's heated up into a very hot temperature, so that increases the atmospheric turbulence. And so we're going to be seeing the results of that this week. And that was because of what's behind the sun. It's an infrared monster. It's a carbon star. Like, there are two of everything in opposites, good and evil, black and white, darkness and light.
Yep.
Okay. the twin of the sun is the dark one, and it is a carbon star, and it emits infrared radiation. That's where this heat is coming from. It's crossing over the corona of the sun, and that's why we're getting it, and it's going to get worse. Because when we come around on our orbit, we're going to come into the path of its debris. Do you remember the cartoon, The Tasmanian Devil?
Oh, yeah.
That's what this thing looks like. But its dust cloud is 3 million miles wide at top. It's huge. And it's going to be very omniscient in the skies when its visibility occurs. And we already have some estimated dates on that. But again, we knew that we had to produce this by August in order to get ready. And again, we've had to assemble all the components, and we've been blessed to have communicated with you and participated in your system. And we feel that, the LEAP project will definitely experience what is called a catapult effect, because many people are searching for something that is simple and easy to understand and something they can review and prove to themselves. And they're all searching for this knowledge. This is why there's so many different ways that people are out there. I mean, it goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. And what we want to do is stay in the center path, providing these 3 lectures with our application to give them the opportunity to show to them that what they believe or fear could be coming and what they can do. In other words, do not be afraid of death because it's coming anyway, but at least to feel confident that you will have the opportunity to transcend to the higher level of consciousness that your energy that's within your body will ascend to when you die. And if you do succeed in this, you will prevent death from claiming your soul. Because remember what it says: death will be thrown into the lake of fire and all that it possesses. So you do not want death collecting your soul.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is...
And it will give you the opportunity. So whatever we can do or work out, it would be, we've had these conversations. Again, I've learned a lot from you in speaking. I can sense your own sincerity within your voice. And I can see your concern and your own curiosity as to know more. And you seem to have this kind of sixth sense to where you feel motivated to do what you are doing now. And again, like I said, that we are more than happy to assist in our own methods here, and as the showing of our own commitment here, we've put something up that no one has, and it's part of prophecy, meaning that it says that within prophecy, if your eye offends thee, pluck it out. So this can't occur unless this gets into the hands of the Church of Satan or whoever is going to be the users, because they have to have a way to actually confirm the commitment of the ones that they hire or that gravitate towards them. The simple words won't do. They'll say that, we need to do this, and you must be committed to it, and this is a sign of your commitment. And this is the only place that the mark of the eye can actually occur. In other words, it has to have this tool. Now, it was used upon many people. I pray for their souls. I hope that they will, let's say, receive the reward of the error of their ways. But I do hope that other people have the opportunity to remove the darkness that may reside within their body and to make a commitment to be a better person and to prepare themselves for whatever may come. Because we can't now, every day things are changing. We cannot depend upon what is going on. Like, some
Perfect
people,
timing.
Are you there?
Perfect
No.
timing.
That was another phone.
Right.
So, well, again, our intention is to help as many people as possible to see, what the reality is when they produce it themselves, and then that way they'll be able to judge it based upon their own knowledge and experience. Because we don't want to tell them. We want them to turn around and see it for themselves, because the world of the fancy illusion, the stars and the popular singers, Kanye West, what they're producing out there is made to take people to the wrong way. In other words, a different way, just like the political scene is going now. One's going one way, one's the other way. This is not about having forever cases of war, trying to take people's assets. This is about trying to work together to meet whatever it is that we must face, and to enjoy every moment of life that we have, because this is the last generation. People need to get ready for this. It's not going to be very nice in the next 12 months.
Well, thanks again for everything, and we'll definitely stay in touch. I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, then. You have a great day, and remember, look up that cenotaph.